Have you ever observed how a river flows? It doesn't struggle or force its path. It simply moves with the contours of the earth. Yet, in our human journey, we often believe we must constantly struggle against our own nature, as if we are born as tangled streams that need to be straightened by force. We carry a heavy burden, the belief that something deep within us is flawed and requires perpetual correction. But what if this entire struggle is based on a profound misunderstanding? What if the feeling of being broken is not a condition to be fixed, but a perspective to be released? This is a fundamental shift in awareness, a journey from self-judgment to self-acceptance. It's about learning to trust the wisdom that already flows within you. If this path of inner peace calls to you, I invite you to subscribe and join our community. Together, we can learn to walk this path with clarity and compassion. To begin this journey, let us set an intention, a deep affirmation of our own inherent worth. In the comments below, simply write this phrase to declare your readiness. I am already whole. Consider for a moment a seed deep in the soil. Does it scold itself for not being a tree? Does it feel shame for its darkness and stillness? Of course not. It trusts its own innate process. It knows it is not an imperfect tree, but a perfect seed. Its journey of transformation is not a project of fixing flaws, but an unfolding of its inherent nature. Yet we, in our vast consciousness, have learned to judge our own seed-like states. We have convinced ourselves that our current form, our present understanding, is a problem to be solved. Ancient wisdom teaches us that this feeling of incompleteness comes from a story we have learned, not from a truth we were born with. This story whispers that you are a collection of problems needing solutions. It suggests that with enough effort, the right teacher, or the perfect method, you can finally assemble yourself into a worthy being. This belief is like a mist that clouds our vision, so pervasive, we forget it is not the air itself. We accept that we are rough stones, endlessly needing to be polished. But from a space of deep awareness, we find a different truth. What if you were never a stone, but a flowing river? Let me share an insight with you, one that may feel counterintuitive in a world focused on self-improvement. Your true nature has never been broken. It has never been deficient. The only thing that truly needs mending is the belief that you are in need of constant repair. When you stand before a mountain, do you see it as an unfinished project? Do you think, if only that mountain tried harder, it could smooth its jagged peaks or cover its bare rock? No, you see its majesty in its wild, untamed form. The mountain is not trying to be a mountain, it simply is. Its essence unfolds without effort or apology. But we have developed the unique ability to stand apart from ourselves, to become the architects of our own internal prisons. We gaze at our reflection and see not a living miracle, but a project in need of endless renovation. This is not to say that growth, learning, or change are without purpose. A river learns the land as it flows, finding its path around stones, deepening its channel. But the river does not condemn itself for its bends and turns. The crucial difference is this: the river trusts its nature, while we have been taught to question ours. We have inherited a belief that our authentic impulses are unreliable, that our deepest feelings are misguided, and that without constant control, we will inevitably falter. And so, we cultivate an inner supervisor, a tireless warden that questions our every move. Is this productive? Am I feeling the right way? Am I growing fast enough? Why am I not further along on my path? This constant vigilance is profoundly exhausting. It is like carrying a heavy stone on a long journey, a stone you were never meant to lift. But here is what is truly unfolding. This inner warden, this voice of constant critique, is not your true self. It is an echo. It is a collection of shadows from your past, the expectations of others, the rules of society, the judgments we absorbed as children. You have internalized a council of judges, and now they dictate the rhythm of your life, making you feel perpetually behind, forever inadequate. Yet, who is it that hears this counsel? Who is it that observes this inner storm of thought and judgment? There is a quiet presence within you that witnesses this drama without being swept away by it. This silent awareness is who you truly are. You are not the stories you tell about yourself. You are not the fleeting judgments or the shifting critiques. You are the vast, open sky in which these thoughts appear and pass like clouds. A storm may rage, but it can never scar the sky. In the same way, thoughts of inadequacy may pass, but they cannot touch the clear expanse of your essential being. You may be thinking, but I do have struggles. I do cause harm at times. There are patterns within me that I wish to change. This is true for all of us. But consider this perspective. You can inspire change, learn new ways of being, and grow into your potential without starting from the premise that you are fundamentally flawed. Watch a young plant reaching for the sun. It bends, it twists, it finds its way. Does it label itself a defective grower? Does it develop anxiety about its photosynthetic inadequacies? No, it simply responds to the light. Growth is a natural, often playful, response to life. It happens not from a sense of brokenness, but from an inner impulse toward vitality. There are two profoundly different currents of change. The first arises from the belief that you are broken and need to be fixed. The second flows from the recognition that you are already whole and are naturally unfolding. The first path is like trying to force a river to run straight, building dams and levees, always fighting against its natural course. The second path is like being the river itself, trusting its flow, knowing that its winding journey is its wisdom. The one who forces the river lives in constant struggle. The one who becomes the river collaborates with the power of life itself. So many of our approaches to growth are about forcing the river. We treat our emotions like obstacles, our habits like enemies to be conquered, our very nature as a battlefield. But what if you are not a battle to be won? What if you are a living landscape with its own sacred geometry, its own inherent wisdom? When you begin to trust this inner intelligence, a quiet miracle occurs. You stop fighting with the river of your life and begin to flow with it. You allow your unique, authentic form to emerge, rather than trying to sculpt yourself into a shape defined by others. This is not passivity. It is the most powerful form of action. Action aligned with the Tao, the natural way of things. I know a question may arise. If I stop pushing myself, will I not become stagnant? Is this not just an excuse for inaction? In truth, the opposite is revealed. When you release the energy you were spending on inner conflict, on self-criticism, on the deep anxiety of not being enough, a tremendous current of vitality is liberated within you. Consider how much of your life force is consumed each day by evaluating your progress, comparing your path to others, and judging your own heart. Now imagine all of that energy freed to be fully present, free to respond creatively to this moment, free to experience the simple joy of your own existence. A person who understands their own wholeness does not waste this precious energy on self-attack. They channel it into their world, into connection, creation, and quiet discovery. They begin to dance with life, rather than seeing it as a relentless taskmaster. Imagine a master calligrapher. If they obsess over every single stroke, afraid of imperfection, their brush will be stiff and the work will be lifeless. But if they sit in stillness and allow the ink to flow from that silent center, they are not doing the calligraphy. The calligraphy is flowing through them. There may be unexpected marks, moments of surprise, but without the prison of perfection, these moments are not mistakes. They are the expressions of life itself. This is the essence of ceasing the effort to fix yourself. It is not about abandoning your journey. It is about changing your relationship with the path. Instead of viewing your life as a problem to be solved, you can approach it as a sacred text to be read with reverence. Instead of seeing yourself as a project to be finished, you can recognize yourself as a living expression of the universe. Life is not a puzzle. Life is a dance. You don't solve a dance. You join it. You move with it. You become the music. Here is something you may find in your own quiet moments. When you truly stop trying to fix yourself, the very patterns you wish to change often begin to transform on their own. As an ancient teaching suggests, a pool of muddy water clears best when it is left to be still. When you stop stirring the sediment of self-judgment, the natural clarity of your mind begins to emerge. This is because many of our perceived problems are the direct result of our struggle against them. Perhaps you believe you have a problem with worry. You try techniques to fight it, to analyze it, to manage it. But this very effort often creates more tension. Worry about the worry itself. What if there is nothing fundamentally wrong with feeling worry at times? What if it is simply a cloud passing through the sky of your awareness? When you cease making worry into an enemy, when you stop adding the story, "I should not be feeling this," the energy of the worry can move through you and dissolve naturally. This is true for so much of our inner experience. We have been taught to expect a certain inner climate, always calm, always confident, always joyful. This is like demanding the weather of the world be perpetually sunny and mild. Our inner world has seasons. It has storms and sunshine, mist and clarity. This is not a malfunction. This is the nature of a living consciousness. When you understand this, you can stop trying to control the inner weather and instead learn to be present with whatever arises. This same wisdom applies to the aspects of yourself you have been taught to see as flaws. Perhaps you are quiet in a world that prizes noise. Perhaps you are deeply sensitive in a culture that rewards hardness. Instead of trying to mend these qualities, what if you recognize them as your sacred offering to the world? What if you stopped apologizing for your nature and started to inhabit it with grace? The bamboo does not try to become an oak. The stream does not apologize for not being the sea. They express their true essence fully and beautifully. When you offer yourself this same radical acceptance, something profound shifts. You cease wasting life force trying to be something you are not, and all that energy becomes available for being who you truly are. Of course, this does not mean you stop learning, but now learning arises from a place of curiosity and delight, not from a sense of lack. You learn to play an instrument because you love sound, not because you think you should be more creative. One is an act of joy. The other is a chore of self-repair. Remember the state of a child. A child doesn't schedule imagination practice. They simply imagine. They do not set goals to be more present. They simply play. The innate intelligence of life guided their growth perfectly. But along the path, we were taught to outsource our trust, to look for external authorities to tell us how to be. We internalized these voices and built a vast inner bureaucracy to manage our existence, complete with performance reviews and correction plans. But beneath all of this internal noise, your original nature remains. It has not gone anywhere. It waits with infinite patience for you to remember that you were always whole. This nature is not something you must earn or build. It is who you are when you release the effort to be someone else. It is the silence that remains when the stories fall away, and what remains is nothing short of miraculous, not in a spectacular sense, but in the simple, profound beauty of being authentic, natural, and truly alive. There is a beautiful paradox here. The more you try to improve yourself, the more you strengthen the belief that you are somehow deficient. Yet the moment you deeply recognize that you were never broken, authentic growth happens on its own, effortlessly. It is like the difference between a flower that opens naturally to the sun and a bud that someone tries to force open with their fingers. Which one do you believe will truly blossom? When you trust your own being, when you cease the inner war, growth unfolds in its own sacred time, with its own undeniable grace. This is not a philosophy of complacency, it is one of profound trust. Trust in the same boundless intelligence that beats your heart without your command, that heals your body without your instruction, that paints the sunset. The intelligence that breathes the universe is the same intelligence that you are. Do you truly believe it requires your constant, anxious management to guide your path? This is my invitation to you. What if for just one day you were to lay down the tools of self-repair? What if you approached your day not as a challenge to overcome, but as a journey to be experienced? What if you met your feelings with simple presence instead of judgment? What if you observed your thoughts as passing clouds, not as ultimate truths about you? What if you treated yourself with the same quiet respect and gentle patience you would offer a cherished friend? You may be surprised at the peace that emerges. You may discover that, without the constant strain of self-improvement, your true self begins to breathe more freely. You may realize that you are already magnificent, exactly as you are. Not perfect in a static sense, but perfect as a complete and living expression of this very moment. And from that deep recognition, any change that is needed will arise organically, not through force, but through a persistent, gentle flow. To embrace this path of trusting your true nature is a profound act of courage and self-compassion. If you are ready to make this commitment to yourself, to choose presence over perfection and flow over struggle, I invite you to subscribe and continue walking this path with us. This is the great insight that can liberate you. You were never broken. You do not need to be fixed. You are already complete, a living embodiment of universal intelligence. The only thing that ever needed healing was the belief that you were unwell. And the irony is, you cannot fix that belief with more fixing. You can only see through it. The great illusion is that you are a separate fragment, a problem that life must solve. But you are not separate from life. You are life itself, expressing itself as you. And life is not a problem to be solved. It is a mystery to be lived. So cease the struggle. Allow yourself to be as you are. We are all expressions of the same one consciousness. Each unique, each whole, each an irreplaceable note in the symphony of existence. When you realize this in the depth of your being, you can finally relax into the profound beauty of who you are. And who you are is already more vast and wondrous than the person you have been striving to become. The stream does not need to become more like the river. It already is the river on its unique journey. And you do not need to become more like life. You are life, exploring the wonder of being you. And this exploration, this dance, this sacred play is not a problem. It is the entire purpose.